Major League Baseball trade deadline coming up on Friday at 4 p.m.
Which we haven't even talked about.
We haven't even talked about. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. You've got obviously the Texans starting training camp, and then obviously the entire Deshaun Watson situation. Thursday is the NBA draft. The Rockets hold the number 2 overall pick, and then you throw in the mix the conference realignment with the Big 12, SEC, Texas, Oklahoma. This again, what happens this week could affect Texas, Houston sports world for years upon years upon years on end. It's going to be really fascinating to see how it plays out.
So let's start by talking about this whole SEC Big 12 deal. What are we looking at? So University of Texas and University of Oklahoma want to switch conferences.
Yes, they want to. Think of it like real estate. It all comes down to money first and foremost. Basically, what Texas and Oklahoma are doing, they're two of the nicest houses in a modestly nice neighborhood. They want to go into the really ritzy neighborhood and also have a nice house. So they're just positioning themselves to be in a better spot when the day comes when perhaps there are 2 or 3 super conferences of 25, 30 teams maybe. And right now, they're just trying to be proactive because they are the 2 most marketable programs in the Big 12 conference. And basically, they don't want to be left holding the bag. They want to be in a position of strength. Being with the SEC, SEC is the most powerful conference in college athletics, not named the Big 10. So they're trying to position themselves to be in a better spot than they are now if we ever get to this time when we have maybe 1, 2, or 3 super conferences. And that's what it comes down to. And with all that, with power comes money. And certainly Texas, Oklahoma are 2 of the top 10 revenue-producing athletics programs in all of college sports. And the SEC, when Texas and Oklahoma, should they come over, they'll have 7 of the top 10 revenue-producing college athletics programs.
Wow.
That is power right there.
Absolutely.
And then the SEC could probably do whatever it wants. They could maybe absorb another conference.
The SEC does whatever it wants now.
That's true. That's true. So, and what's fascinating is where does this leave the other schools in the Big 12? Will some of them jump to the Pac-12, which I know you're very familiar with?
Go Ducks.
They also have the option, some of them maybe joining the Big 10. So it really is going to be fascinating. And part of all this is that you have Texas A&M. Texas A&M left the Big 12.
Has been the lone Texas school
yes,
in the
and they
SEC.
want to stay that way. That's their position. They have built this brand of being the only Texas program in the SEC, and with that comes a lot of money and also a lot of good things when you're the only show in town with the SEC or the only show in the state. So they want to keep that. Basically, they left the Big 12 years ago because they didn't want to be, I guess, under Texas's shadow, if you will. Here's the problem. The SEC requires a 3/4 vote. That would be 11 of 14 schools. Last time I checked, Texas A&M only has 1 vote. Now, it's possible that a school like Missouri maybe would vote no as well, but when you look at the dollars involved with this, and again, it puts the SEC in a position of even more strength, it would be really hard for, I'm guessing, any of these other SEC schools to vote no on adding Texas and Oklahoma.
So what does the process look like from here? I know the ball got rolling this morning with the letter.
Yes, so essentially Texas and Oklahoma notified the Big 12 that they are rescinding or will not be a part of the media rights for the next cycle. And they're saying that's the first step to get out. We're not going to be part of your television network deals and things like that. So now, with them out, the big question is how quickly does this happen? Now, the letter, I believe it was 2025. That's when they would be out of the negotiations for a new Big 12 television contract, media rights. But you could argue that maybe the Big 12 would say, just go now, pay us your penalty. Usually, all the time, basically there is a penalty for programs or schools that want to leave a conference early. I think it's in the $50 to $70 million range, which is a lot of money, but when you're pulling in $225 million a year, you do the math. The big question is, will the Big 12 hold on to Texas and Oklahoma until 2025 or let them go now? And then this way they could join the SEC. I think it would probably, in my opinion, be better for the Big 12 to let those two go and then figure out what they want to do. Because when you have a certain number of teams or schools involved, that way you can then negotiate with other schools. Say, listen, we've got a commitment from these schools. They're staying. Come with us and we can become stronger. If you let Texas and Oklahoma linger, then then there's some whispers in the ears of the other schools, and then you get this position of uncertainty. Always want to have certain terms when you're dealing with negotiations. So it will be fascinating to see how the dominoes fall. Will the Big 12 get gobbled up by a couple of other conferences, those schools? Will they go out and actively recruit, say, U of H or some other programs? Will the American Conference, will they decide, let's go see if we can poach some of those Big 12 schools? Mm-hmm. It will be fascinating. And all of this appears to be heading to a situation where we have maybe 2 or 3 super conferences of 20, 25 schools apiece. That appears to be where we're headed. Who knows?
Many years down the road.
Well, yes, many years, but many years. You have to remember, colleges and universities schedule, they do their scheduling 4 years, 5 years out in advance. So we think many years, but the way things have been moving, and Ross Bjork, the athletics director of A&M, said, yes, we're part of the NCAA, but the NCAA has shown very little vision, very little planning, strategic planning to deal with not only this issue, but name, image, likeness.
Yep.
But that's a whole nother story. But essentially, you want to be in a position of power. And right now, Texas and Oklahoma, in my estimation, they were the really nice houses in a very nice neighborhood. But now they want to be a nice house in a superb neighborhood that has the highest property values, and that's essentially what they're doing.
We're going to change topics really quickly. I know a lot of people are going to be watching your coverage of the UT-OU SEC stuff, but Texans training camp started yesterday.
Well, yes. Officially it starts. Yeah, You're right. So it's the intake process, COVID screenings, meetings, things like that. They're on the field for the first time on Wednesday.
Got it. And the big question will be if quarterback Deshaun Watson
will be on the
there.
field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how he could be. You would have to believe that, again, this was a money situation. Should Deshaun Watson have not reported, he would be subject to a fine of $50,000 a day. This way, he reports to camp. It forces the Texans' hands to do a number of different things, possibilities. Do they put him on administrative leave? Do they bring him into the building and have him go through practice? I mean, here's a guy who's already said he doesn't want to be here.
Right.
And then you have the big spectacle of all the attention. I shouldn't say spectacle, that's a poor choice of words. This cloud that's hanging over him, obviously, with these very serious allegations. So this really forces the Texans' hands. What do they do? Do they want him in the building? Do they want him to be a part of what they're trying to build under a new coach? The NFL, some would say, why don't they place him on an exempt list where he gets paid, but it kind of pushes the ball down the road. He doesn't have to be in the Texans building. The NFL has yet to do anything, which I think is somewhat surprising. But I would find it very hard to believe that the Texans would want all of this around them, swirling around them as they're trying to build a new culture under Nick Caserio, the general manager, and David Culley. Now there's reports that, yes, we are willing to trade him. But I think they've been willing to trade him for a while. They just couldn't get the right price. And
the past couple of months, his value's declined.
Yes. If the NFL would come out and say, listen, Deshaun and Texans and the rest of the NFL, you will be suspended 8 games, and maybe they knock it down to 6 or 6 and knock it down to 4 with an appeal, things like that. My guess is a deal would happen very quickly. Again, it goes back to that certainty versus uncertainty argument. Deshaun Watson's an amazing player. We know that. But when will he be on the field? Will he be on the field in 2021? And I think that's where teams right now are saying, yes, we know what the value is under normal circumstances, but these aren't normal circumstances.
On the news side of things, it seemed like there for a couple months, there were new developments in the Deshaun Watson story every single day, and it sort of faded from the news headlines for the past couple of weeks. Has it done the same thing on the sports side?
Yeah, I would definitely say that that's happened. The most recent thing that we have seen was Tony Busby, the lawyer for the accusers, on his honeymoon, posting about having a massage and how he was perfectly happy with a very professional massage, that he didn't ask for anything else, alluding to what Deshaun Watson is accused of. And really, that's the most we've seen out of either side in the past 2 or 3 weeks, if my memory serves correctly. Matt Musil, our colleague here at KHOU 11, spoke to Rusty Hardin, Deshaun Watson's lawyer. As far as reporting to camp, I mean, does this change Deshaun Watson's viewpoint that maybe he doesn't want to be traded? And what Rusty Hardin told Matt Musil was, this doesn't change anything. It was, they just felt that it was in their client's best interest to report to camp. And I think you can read between the lines that that means that he won't be facing fines of $50,000 a day. Think how quickly that adds up, even when you're an athlete who makes millions and millions of dollars.
Right, when he just signed for this extension.
Yes.
So those are 2 big stories you're watching. Run down again everything else that's happening this week, and then I'll let you go.
No, that's fine. So the NBA draft is coming up on Thursday. The Rockets, for years, have not had a first-round draft pick, but because they were so bad and then making some deals, they have the number 2 overall pick as well as some other picks. There's about 3 guys, you could say, maybe 4, that they're considering. A lot of people that we've talked to believe that a youngster by the name of Jalen Green, who one observer said that this guy does things on the basketball court that humans shouldn't be able to do, which to me, sign me up for that guy.
Yeah, the Rockets need something like that.
Yeah, so he's an 18-year-old swing guard type player, and he could go number 2 overall to the Rockets. I think the consensus number 1 for most people is Cade Cunningham, who went to Oklahoma State last year, left early, 6'8" forward who can pretty much do anything as well. So that's what's happening on Thursday is the NBA draft. There is some talk that maybe the Rockets would move up to get the number 1 overall pick, to get their guy, perhaps thinking that it's Cade Cunningham. But if you're trading up to get the number 1 overall pick, usually that requires a lot of draft capital. And I don't know if the Rockets, if they feel that like 1 and 1A is this close, like it really makes no sense to mortgage so much other parts of your draft to move up 1 spot if you think that the guys are pretty close to each other. We could see a guy like Eric Gordon perhaps get traded. Here's a guy, a veteran guy who makes a lot of money, who's been very productive when healthy. There's got to be a team that you would consider a contender who may want somebody like that and then give Houston back some more draft picks, maybe in this draft or down the line. And then on Friday, Major League Baseball's trade deadline, will the Astros do anything to strengthen themselves for another World Series run? We were thinking on Sports Extra on Sunday night with our former Major League scout, Jeremy Booth, I don't think it's any great secret, pitching. I mean, you can never have enough pitching. The problem is that the Astros don't have a lot left in their farm system. When you're looking to get impact, like a guy who's really, really good. Now, contracts sometimes play a role in this. Does this guy have 1 year left on his deal? Is this the last year of his contract? Impact, the Astros really don't have a lot in the farm system. And that could be really tough for them to swing a deal. And as Jeremy Booth told us last night, you don't want to trade off your big league roster right now because you need all those guys.
You're
and it's shown that you need those guys based on injuries. So we will find out more about that on Friday. So this is why this may be one of the most interesting years of 2020, weeks rather, of 2021 in Houston sports. And we could be feeling the impact of this for years and years and years to come.
Okay, so I know you're super busy. You got to run and get ready for the 4 p.m. newscast. You can catch Jason at 4, and then you'll have sports.
Do we have any questions on Facebook? Did we get any questions? Not to like pull, not to.
I would have to have pulled it up. Here,
oh my goodness!
Hold,
what have
please.
I done? What have I done?
Hold, please.
You're like, I'm trying to let you go, and now you're saying.
It's always great to get more time to talk to you.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way.
Here we go.
All right, so.
Oh, we have the watch.
Oh, so there's a couple. Let's see. A&M wanted to leave the Sooners. Now we'll have to play them yearly. Yeah, that's part of it, sure. But anyhow, so it's going to be really interesting. 5 o'clock, Texas A&M is reportedly holding a meeting about moving forward. But I, like you said, you're not going to leave. You're not going to leave one of the best conferences. You're just not going to do it, especially when you're good. Texas football has been largely irrelevant in many ways on the national stage for a long time. Texas A&M is clearly the best program in the state right now, and they're saying, listen, hey, be careful what you wish for. They're eager for it. So it will be interesting.
You can keep tabs on KHOU.com. Also download the KHOU 11 news app, and we will update you should anything big come out of any of these major sports stories this week. Jason, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brandi.
Have a great day.